Hi, welcome to day 3 of creating Pac-Man from scratch. And on Monday's video, we managed to import the graphics for our Pac-Man background, and we used directions for them, and that's because each one then has an index that we can load. Yesterday, what we did was created this magnificent CSV file. I think that was yesterday. And then what we've done is we've created a way of loading it through using the incredible string parser object, which is, if you're working with strings, you've got to go string parser. Please let me know in the comments if you have anything to add with this. Maybe there's a different way of importing CSVs. I record these at the weekend, so I have no idea whether someone's already written down how to do the CSV in a better way, but if you have, I will definitely refer to it in the future. I will also refer to a comment I got last week from a video I did a while ago, maybe 3 or 4 years ago, that I said, oh, don't worry, it's just the same as Excel, and someone was not comforted by that comment. But anyway, so today we're looking at actually creating this environment. So what I want to do is I want to import this into Clickteam's amazing array object, and there's a few bits of setup if I can remember how to do it. I think do I double click on it? I thought there was a here we go. The first one. It's always the first one. Right. What I want to do is I want to make sure that this is a text array. Do I want a number array? There we go. Get it right. And the reason for that is it's just I don't know, there's performance benefits or whatever. We're only putting numbers into it, so it can be a number 1. I want it to be base 0 because I hate using base 1, so I'm going to get rid of base 1. The stuff in the string parser, as we found out yesterday, is base 1, which means that they start counting at 1. And it's just irritating when you do loops and stuff. The X and Y dimensions, we don't need to worry too much about. We might be using the Z dimensions later on, depending how we plan on using this. Maybe we use the second Z dimension to track where Pac-Man is and stuff like that. So, and maybe we use the third and fourth for the enemies or whatever. These we're not too worried about because they will be more than 10. But when you add an array object, these will just move up anyway, so we're not that worried about it. Okay, so we have already looped through the rows and columns, and at the moment we're just using it to add to a string, but we actually just want to add it to the array. So we're just going to write value and we use value because it's a number array. We'd use string if it was obviously a string array. And we're just going to write the value to the X, Y, and Z, and we're going to just be consistent in using the Z, even though it's all just going to be 0 at the moment. The value to write is the current object, so the list token in get element from the string parser 2. Remember, this is the one that's going through. If I show you, this is going through the row, so that is what string parser 2 will receive, and it's chopping up the commas and it's looping through each of the values. So this is number 1, this is number 2, this is number 3, and we're going to get the loop index for col, if I spell it right. But remember, it's base 1 index, so it's going to be +1. I've made a mistake there. What have I made a mistake with? I'm assuming because it's a string parser, it will spit out a string, so I want to put that in value, because I know it's going to be a value, so I'm not worried about it being a string. But you need to show to Clickteam that you're guaranteeing this is a value, otherwise it won't like it. The X index, and we just use the loop indexes here. So the X index will be row, I hope. And this one will be col. I'm kind of hoping. Now Z index, we're just going to say 0. 0 is the first one, so that will hopefully work nicely. Now, you might be wondering why on earth we're using the array object. Why don't we just put the graphics in straight away? Well, as I discussed earlier, we might use the array for tracking movement, etc. But there's also it's also better to store this value or to store this information for later on. Maybe we want to create further levels. Maybe we want to manipulate it in a different way. It would be annoying having to load that file each time. And actually, what we can do is we can then save the array data and just load the array data, so we're not using that CSV anymore. There's loads of reasons why we would use an array, and it might seem a bit counterintuitive to get the CSV, convert it into an array, and then use it, but it's going to be so much more useful later on. So something we can do as well with an array, if I run the application and I load the array object. Now, I think this is quite a new thing, but maybe not. What I can do is I can actually, first of all, see the X and Y dimension, which you couldn't do with string parser that I know of. And you can see it's 31 by 28, which is exactly what was our Excel spreadsheet. You can actually look into it. So the first bit is 0, but if I move down 1, so X is 1, I think we've got this the wrong way around. X should really be this way. So maybe we'll change that in a second. But we can see it's 7. And if I move to the right, I should be 4, which it is. So you can actually check this really, really easily by using that function. I might swap these the other way around. Otherwise, I'm going to get confused. So I'm going to change that to col and that to row. Just kind of makes a bit more sense. Okay, so we've got the array set up, and I still want it to be at the starter frame because we're loading the graphics, but because this is underneath all of this will happen first, hopefully. I think that the loading is done first, but I suppose we'll see. What I could do is I could have something under this that says, actually that's probably a better idea. So I'm going to have like a fast loop that says something like load graphics, or load background, I should say load background. And this is a loop of just one, because I want to make sure that it happens after all of the this stuff happens. And so you can see on the stack it's load it, go through all of this stuff, go through all the rows, then load this. And it doesn't always work nicely. Clickteam sometimes does things asynchronously. It just seems to actually do it kind of randomly, asynchronously. And the issue with that is that if you put code underneath and you need it, it's dependent on the code above, it's going to be a real problem if Clickteam goes, oh, I'll tell you what, you've got a multi-threaded core, let's do this bit and this bit at the same time. That's going to be a problem because this bit relies on this bit, all to do with dependencies. But anyway, I digress. That has been many, many times me troubleshooting an issue with that. Okay, so we've got our loop load background, and we're just going to do with fast loops. So we'll do so we'll do rows again. No, I can't do that. I'll do R and C, rows and columns. So rows will be the Y dimension. The Y dimension is how many values it has, or how many values it has in its Y. So that will be the rows, and then what is it? We said R. And we're just going to loop again for the C. Should probably use X and Y really. That would be a better way. Name of the loop. C and dimension X for the array. I think I'm going to change that. So this is dimension Y. So So this will be the Y. It's going to be a lot easier, because I might use this for other things as well. It's going to be a lot easier. Always, always, always make sure you label things in a really easy to follow way. And I often get X and Y mixed up when it comes to these loops. So it's quite hard to visualize which one you need. So I'm going to get rid of all of this string stuff, and I'm going to test it again. In fact, I could just use the same stuff, couldn't I? But I just need to update it. So I'm going to have a new line each time, and this time, instead of from the string parser, we're going to get it straight from the array. And yeah, I know it gets really irritating, and this is, I know it gets really irritating testing your code each time, but the amount of time it saves, and the for my day job, which is coding websites, but mainly one, I will tell you now that one of the issues is you do a bunch of stuff. So you're spending 2 or 3 hours on a part of this website, and it's quite fiddly, and there's all sorts of stuff going on, and it's quite annoying. On some parts of websites are quite annoying to test because you need server-side stuff configured. You need to put it up, upload it in a certain way. A lot of it you can do it straight away. You can test it straight away. Some of it you can't. When I've gone for 2 or 3 hours and haven't tested it, and then I load it up and it's not working, it's really difficult to figure out what I did in the last 2 or 3 hours that broke it. So I try and get in the habit of doing a little bit, testing it, doing a little bit, testing it. The way, I can't remember what the ratio is, but apparently the dev's job is 20% coding and 80% of checking their work, finding mistakes, trying to fix mistakes. So why not spend 50% of your coding time testing it? That's what I say. So we've got value at, and that's a string, and so we need to convert that into sorry, it's an integer, so we need to convert that into a string. Right, let's have a look. Bop, bop, bop. And I think that's all right. Let's have a look. Load up the CSV and check it. Yeah, looks good. Perfect. Always good when it's loaded fine. Okay. Right, now we need to actually get to drawing the graphics. It's taken us a while. So what I can do is put this string off and put this off. This can go off as well because this is my master active. We're not actually going to use it in the game because we're going to create it each time. I need a much bigger place to work, and so I need to make this bigger. So the size of it, let's just make it 1200 by 1200 for now. We'll worry about the exact size later on. And yes, okay, so that's nice. Let's just check that fits on the screen. Yeah, it fits nicely. Okay. So we're looping through our array in here. So what I want to do is I want to create a new object, and let's just check. What's this? Create object at. What's that do? So we've got our active. Wow, you can create it. This is amazing. So Clickteam have updated Clickteam. What are we on? 2.5 for, I think, the 10th, 11th time, whatever it's been. It feels like it's been a lot. So you might notice that an awful lot of the icons have changed, which is still confusing the heck out of me. I kind of... These ones are more modern, but I kind of preferred the old ones. But I can see why they've done these new ones. They look a bit more modern. But anyway... It's the conservative in me going, oh, change, I don't like it. However, I can't wait for Clickteam Fusion 3 to come out at some point. Anyway, that's a rant for another day. But one of the things they've changed is you had to create an object, and then you had to kind of just hope that Clickteam knew that you wanted to move that object. So what Clickteam saw is if you created an object and moved it on the same line, then you were probably talking about the one you've just created. But it was really kind of like, oh, maybe Clickteam will know it's that one. And if you were trying to create multiple ones on the same line, it just got really complicated. So this is amazing that you can now say to Clickteam exactly where you want it. So we need the, so for the X coordinate, we need the X fast loop. Simple as that. And we want to times it by the width of each tile, which will be 40. And it's 0 based, so the first one will be at the top left. And we will change this later on when we obviously don't necessarily want them squished above, squished too far to the left. So we could add an amount or whatever, but not for now. And then we want the Y coordinate to do exactly the same thing. And layer number. Okay, so yeah, so we'll just leave that for now. Okay. How amazing is that? So that is loaded absolutely fantastically. I think that's incredible. But we need to change the direction of it. So we've kind of got to do the same thing. We've got to say select direction, and we're just kind of hoping that it would be nice if you could select the direction as well and do all sorts of other things. We're going to use the calculate direction part, and we're going to just use the value from the XYZ, and this will be from the fast loop. You can actually type this stuff in, like loop index. I'm just going to copy and paste that. And it's going to be the Y, and we want the Z index 0. Perfect. And let's look at that. Wow, how cool is that? So if we first of all, we can see straight away that Clickteam panics when it gets to these tiles here, because these are direction 32, which doesn't exist. Well, I wonder if it loops back to 0. I think Clickteam does. So if you say 32, it will loop back to 0. This here, these parts here are 33, so that would actually make sense. You can see also that there's some that don't line up at all, which have been epic failures. But we can fix that later on, so we'll sort all that out. And this is why I said that there will be problems. So we're going to straight away, what we can do is try and sort some of the issues out. We need some way of something different happening, or this line here only happening if the direction is... so what I can do is just copy this. If the direction is less than 32. So we're going to insert a conditional compare to general values, and I'm going to say if the direction is lower than 32, because our highest one is 31, so if it's lower than 32 I want it to do this. So let's run the application, and there we go. So you can already see that I've made quite a few mistakes with this. It also seems that it's cutting off a part here, which I'm not 100% sure. And I do know why. And the reason why is because of where the action point is. I should put the action point at the top right of every single one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause as I painstakingly go through each one and make sure that the action point on the active is at the top left. Something that if I'd done at the start wouldn't have taken very long. In fact, it would have taken 2 seconds because... Anyway, let's just pause for a second while I do that. Okay, I think I've done that now. So I've just put the hotspot. I don't think the action point matters, but I've put the hotspots at the top left. I think the action point is where things get fired from and stuff. So let's run this and hopefully, there we go, much better. So this is the point now where I realise I've mucked up some of the tiles. So we can see here I've just picked the wrong one. And here I've picked the wrong one. And I guaranteed you at the start, I made you a promise at the start that this would happen. And I'm a man of my word. it did happen. The other thing I noticed is that the map doesn't fit on the screen, which I'm not sure why. I think I've made a miscalculation somewhere of the ability for this to fit on the screen, because if it's not fitting so a normal HD screen is what, 1080 tool, so I've got to kind of investigate why that's not fitting, but we shall see. Anyway, I'm just thinking, actually it's 31 tiles high, so 31 times 40 would be 1240. That was a miscalculation. I don't know why I thought it was less than that, but there we go. What I can do is I can clone this object, and I can just scale this one down to something that will fit onto a 1080 monitor. So 1080 divided by 8. Let's have a think. Oh no, 1080 divided by 31. So 34. So I could have them 34. So if I make them 30, so what I'm going to do is just change this to 30. It'll fit better. Let's not worry too much about the downscaling. And the reason I create a new one is in case I make a mistake, I've got the original. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to edit this, and I'm going to create this one this time. And I'm going to set the direction of that one. And I've got to change it in here as well. Oh no, I don't. So let's run that now. Oh, and I've got to change, obviously I've got to change the position, because it will be times 30 now, because each tile will be 30. And let's see if that works nicer. Yes, that fits nicer. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pause the video now, and I'm going to update all the mistakes I made, and hopefully we'll have something that looks a bit respectable. Okay, it literally was 3 mistakes. There was these ones up here were the wrong type, a few down the side were the wrong type. I think one of these, I wrote 18 that looked like a 16, so I typed 16. It took me 30 seconds to correct it. I'm pretty proud of the fact that I made only 3 mistakes, because when working with numbers, it's not the easiest thing in the world. But this is our final map screen. It's not perfect. There's a few things that don't quite line up, but that's the beauty of doing this in a kind of rustic way, a kind of homebrew way, is it doesn't have to be perfect. And when you do your own games and stuff, you don't worry about it being perfect. You're doing this for you, and that's it. So yeah, that's what I keep telling myself. Anyway, I'm going to stop today's video because I think we're running 23 minutes, and I try and keep these under 20 minutes, which I failed miserably for today's. In the next episode, I'm going to put the little pieces of food on the map. That should be quite fun. I'll see you then. Thank you very much.